Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back to the old world with another episode of the Golden Age. This is our series of Warhammer Fantasy battle reports for 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy, and this battle is fought between my good friend Iron Major as well as myself. Iron Major is playing the Fell-Hold Nations of the Dwarves, and I'm bringing the Avelorn Guards of the High Elves. This battle is being fought at 3,000 points in a battle line scenario, and I'm really looking forward to this battle report because I've been looking forward to fighting against a dwarf gunline list for a long time now. So that being said, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this battle report, go ahead and pause, take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you. Assemble the army!
Alright, so the scenario for this one is Battle Line Scenario. It is the most typical standard game of Warhammer there is, with standard deployment rules as well as standard victory conditions. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real fast. Alright, so here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, my Iron Major and I are playing on a 4x6 table. I'm deployed on the near side of the table, while Iron Major is deployed on the far side of the table. And like I said before, I'm going against a gunline list for the most part that Iron Major is bringing on this one. He's got two huge units of shooters, he's got Quarrelers as well as Thunderers, he's also got a plethora of war machines as well. And like I keep on saying on this channel, the weakest part of fighting against a gunline list is the flanks. As long as you can attack from the flanks and reposition the shooters out of the way so that way they can't shoot you, that's the best way you're going to do that. So as you can see in this battle report, what I decided to do is kind of gone for like a two-pronged approach. All my infantry forces are located in the center of the battlefield, and the reason why they're located there is because the tower, which is over there on the left-hand side, prevents most of his war machines from actually getting to my infantry. He can kind of see my white lines over there on the left-hand side, but at the same time, you know, that's really about it for the most part. So because of that, most of my infantry is protected. At the same time, he also kind of castles up on the left-hand flank as well, so because of that, he's out of range for a lot of his shooting elements in his army, which is really going to be beneficial to me for a little while, so that way my forces can survive. As you can see as well, the far right hand side, I put most of my cavalry forces there on the far right hand side. My plan is to sweep to the right, take out those hammers that are located on the far right hand flank, and then move down his entire battle line on the right hand side, taking out his troops one group at a time. And that's pretty much what I'm kind of going with. I'm also using my bolt throwers, which are located on the top of the tower there, to kind of lay down some covering fire, and I also at the same time advance forward my infantry so that way they can also engage them as well. Now the only real problem I have to worry about is on the left hand side there. On the left hand side, that's Bugman's Rangers. They scouted about 12 inches away from my forces, so I am kind of worried about those guys, but then again, that's also 12 inches as well, so you know, that's a pretty far way to charge. So and dwarves are not very fast, so I'm hoping that the odds are in my favor and nothing much really comes from that. And that pretty much makes up my battle plan for this one. So with the battle plan over with, let's go ahead and talk about deployment real quick. So here's the center of my army. Starting from the left-hand side, we have my Everqueen's Rangers. Those are 15 white lions of trace. They also have a Banner of Eternal Flame in there. Next to them in the center, that is the Ever Wardens. That is a unit of 25 Phoenix Guard with Standard Bearer as well as Musician. They also have the War Banner. And then right next to them on the right-hand side, that is the Lord Master's Blades. That is a unit of 19 Sword Masters with a Standard Bearer as well as a Musician. They also have the Razor Standard as well. And also in that unit is Techless. My special character is also a wizard. Right behind them is the Dawn Guard. That's a huge unit of 23 Lothern Sea Guard equipped with shields, bows, as well as spears. And also in that unit is Tanis Laynell, my captain of the Dawn Guard. He is my noble who's also a Battle Standard Bearer. He's also got the Standard of Discipline. And then right behind them on the top of the tower, those are the Falling Leaves of Avelorn, which are my 3 Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. And right there on the right hand side, that is the Sunrunner, which is a Terranok Chariot. On the far right hand side of my army is my cavalry forces. On the right hand side, on the left hand side, that is the Silver Sentinels. That is a unit of 9 Silver Helms with a full command as well. They got lances, heavy armor, Ithmal barding, as well as shields. And leading that is Tyrion, who's also the general of my army. He's also the special character as well. And then on the right hand side, those are the Silent Striders. Those are my 10 Illyrian Reavers. They got spears, bows, as well as shields. They got a lot of armor mounted on horses. And they're deployed vanguarded up 12 inches forward as well. And that pretty much makes up my deployment on this one. Across the table are the Dwarves. This is Iron Mage's deployment. On the left-hand side there, you got like what I like to call War Machine Hill. On the left-hand side, that is the Sorrows of El, which is a cannon. I believe it has the Rune of Forging, as well as the Rune of Burning. Behind that is the Decemberist of Winter's Pass, which is an organ gun with the Rune of Accuracy. And behind those Thunderers there on the left-hand side, right behind it, that is the Remember. That is a Grudge Sword with a Rune of Penetration as well. Up in the center there, that is a unit of Thunderers. Those are the Clan Helheim, the Fall of the Dragonbacks, which is 17 Thunderers. I believe they have hand weapons and shields and heavy armor, and also I believe they have Standard Bearer Musician, and leading them that is Grim Burluxon, the special character, and he's within 3 inches of all his war machines, so that way he can give them their engineering buffs as well. And in the center of his army, he has most of his units for the rest of his infantry forces. On the left-hand side, that is Clan Roadsulker. It is the Cursed Company. It is a huge unit of 37 Dwarf Warriors. Also located in that unit as well as where all of his characters are located. You got Lord Ivar Bodison, the Lord of Fallen Holds. He is a Dwarf Lord, who's also the General. He's got a runic weapon of parrying. He's got runic armor with 1 rune of Fortitude and 2 runes of Iron. He's also got a shield bearers as well. Next to him, carrying that Battle Standard Bearer, that is Yorick Shadow Shield, the Chosen of Grugny. He's a Thane Battle Standard Bearer with a great weapon as well as Gromroll armor and shield. He's also packing the Master Rune of Grugny, so these guys have a fight-up ward save against shooting attacks. Also in that unit as well is Ragnar the Spellbreaker. He is a Rune Smith. He's also got a great weapon, Gromroll armor, as well as a shield, and he's got the Rune of Spellbreaking. He's got 2 of those runes as well. So I'm going to have a lot of work cut out for me in terms of trying to get spells off. And finally on the right hand side, that is Clan Izmir, the Vengeful Ones. That is a unit of 18 Quarrelers with full command. They got crossbows, heavy armor, as well as great weapons. And on the far right hand side is his unit of hammers. Those guys are called Clan Stormcloak, the Chosen of Valaya. He's got 19 hammers in there with Standard Bearer as well as a musician. Leading that unit is Torchstick Blackbriar, a Rune Smith. He's got 1 rune of spell breaking. He's also got a great weapon, Gromroll armor, as well as a shield. And that unit also has the Master Rune of Valaya as well, giving them +2 to their dispels. These guys have a 4-up dispel roll for them. So, you know, like I said, magic phase is going to be kind of hard for me on this one because dwarves are as anti-magic as they get, which is kind of ironic because Iron Major hates magic. He doesn't like using magic rules whenever he can. And finally, on the far left-hand side, using the scouting rules, is Bugman's Rangers. That is a unit of 19 Dwarf Rangers with the Bugman's Rangers upgrade. Those guys carry crossbows, great weapons, throwing axes, and hand weapons, as well as heavy armor and shield. And leading them, of course, is Joseph Bugman, the special character. And they're about 12 inches away from my White Lions. And that pretty much makes a deployment on this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the Ancestral Grudge phase. And for Ancestral Grudge, my buddy Iron Major rolls a 5, getting Seething Score to settle, which means that all friendly models with the Ancestral Grudge special rule have the Hatred special rule against all models in my army. So because of that, they got some hatred, and they're going to teach me a lesson or 2 about grudges, which will be kind of interesting as well. So with the Ancestral Grudge rules over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and Iron Major and I roll off for initiative to see who will go first. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Dwarves. The Dwarves manage to get the initiative on this one, and Iron Major only does one thing. He charges forward with Bugman's Rangers. He rolls boxcars, giving him a total of 15 inches in total, so he goes tearing across the left-hand flank and slams right to the left-hand flank of my Dawn Guard, my Lothern Sea Guard. So now those guys are engaged in combat on the beginning of turn number 1. And that is the only movement he does, because he's Dwarves. It doesn't make sense for him to move. It actually makes sense for him to actually stand his ground, so that way he can shoot me to pieces. So with the move phase over with, we skip the magic phase, we go directly to the shooting phase. And the shooting phase, like I said before, most of his shooting forces can't really target my forces because most of his shooting is out of range. So he's not able to do anything with his Quarrelers or his Thunderers, which leaves him as war machines. Unfortunately for him, the organ gun can't actually shoot anything, so because it's too far away to hit the things it can shoot at, and that tower is blocking most of his shots from my infantry forces. However, he does concentrate fire with his cannon because his cannon can see the bottom left-hand corner of my troops. So he fires a cannon and actually kills 2 of my White Lions, which is kind of sad. And then he fires the Remember, which lands right right smack dab in the center of my unit and scatters 2 inches forward, but it's enough to clip 3 of my white lions, and it also managed to kill those 3 guys as well. So I lose 5 white lions right off the bat. To make matters worse, I have to take a panic test to see if these guys flee, and I failed the first panic test. I actually rolled a 10, and these guys have leadership 8 because I'm out of range from my general. I then re-roll again because my battle standard nearby, and I roll an 11, which means that these guys are running for the hills. And when I roll my 2d6 to see how far they run away, they run back 11 inches. That takes them right off the board edge. And just like that, I'm off to a terrific start, losing one of my elite fighting units right off the bat, which is actually pretty rough. And so that pretty much makes it the shooting phase on this one. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. And in the combat phase, things did not go very well for me at all. In fact, my buddy Iron Major actually declares a challenge with Joseph Bugman, and because I don't have a champion in this unit, my battle standard bearer, Tanis Laenel, has to answer the call. So because of that, Tanis Laenel, the captain of the Dawn Guard, as well as Joseph Bugman trade blows. I do manage to put a wound under Joseph Bugman, which is pretty cool, but Joseph Bugman, of course, just head stomped me in with his battle axe, Old Trusty, and managed to kill my battle standard bearer without a drop. So because of that, my battle standard bearer is now dead, so now I don't have that ability anymore. And to make matters worse, when it came to the trading blows between my Lothern Sea Guard as well as his Dwarf Rangers, I do manage to kill one of the Bugman's Rangers, but in the end, though, they managed to kill 4 of my Lothern Sea Guard right off the bat. So because of that, he actually generated 6 wounds from the attacks. He also has a charge, and he's also got a flank, and he also got 2 ranks as well, giving him a combat result of 10. I caused 2 wounds, so it drops it down to 9, but I don't have any ranks because I'm also disrupted. So because of that, it drops my leadership all the way down to -1, which means I have to roll snake eyes in order to hold my ground. And needless to say, I do not roll snake eyes. To make matters worse, my guys actually have to flee. I will flee 9 inches, and Iron Major pursues, and he pursues 9 inches as well. And as he charges forward, chopping up the rest of my Dawn Guard and killing the entirety of my Lothern Sea Guard, he also clips the back left-hand corner of the Everwarden. So because of that, he is actually charged directly into my Everwardens now. So my Phoenix Guards are now engaged in close combat, and things are off to a fantastic start for my High Elf army, and we haven't even gotten to my turn yet, so that's pretty rough. And that pretty much makes it the combat phase on this one. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top and bottom turn number 1 for the High Elves. Alright, so this is the bottom turn number 1 for the High Elves. In this photo, I do some dramatic movement because I need to get there across the battlefield as quick as I can, because if I don't, my guys are going to get shot to pieces. So this is pretty much what I end up doing. So the first thing I do, of course, is I march up forward with my my Silent Striders, as well as march up my Silver Sentinels. So because that, my Silent Striders and Silver Sentinels are set up in a perfect kind of pincer charge to charge directly into those hammers. Because the hammers is the only unit I'm actually worried about. So if I can destroy Clan Stormcloak and destroy those guys, I can then work my way down his main battle lines and chop up the rest of his forces. That's pretty much the plan I'm going with at this moment. At the same time, I also march with the Lord Master's Blades, moving them 10 inches across the battlefield. They're still protected by the tower, so the tower protects them from cannon fire as well as organ gun fire, but it does put within range of his Quarrelers as well as his Thunderers as well. Now, I am willing to risk that though, because my plan is to use Walk Between Worlds. If I can do that during the magic phase, I can propel those guys across the battlefield and hopefully get behind his ranks, so that way I can cause some problems back over there, and that way he won't be able to shoot at me. Now, I do move with my chariot. There's no movement allowance, and that's the only thing that I'm willing to risk. My chariot might get shot at the next turn. It might not. It just kind of depends how the situation goes. But at the same time, of those units, I am willing to lose my chariot. I'm not willing to lose my Lord Master's Blades. So that's the reason why I go with that option. And I should also mention at the same time, the only thing I have to worry about for my Silver Helms as well as my Illyrian Reavers is I have to worry about War Machine Fire. That's the only thing I have to worry about. But at the same time, though, like I said, it's just a risk I'm going to have to take at this point. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the screen, my Phoenix Guards with the Everwardens, they take a leadership test to do a quick combat reform, and they form in such a way that way they're more into position with the Bugman's Rangers, so that way they can maximize their attacks and vice versa. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase for this one. Here's a close-up of my Everwardens getting ready to bring the pain to Joseph Bugman's Rangers, and hopefully I can cause some problems that way. If anybody could take these guys on as my Phoenix Guard, because these guys are built to last. And here's a close-up of the Lord Master's Blades as well as the Sunrunner getting moving across the battlefield as quickly as I can in order to engage the Dwarves. So that makes it that movement phase right there in the center of the battlefield. And finally, here's a close-up of the Silver Sentinels as well as the Silent Striders getting ready to bring the pain to Clan Stormcloak, the Chosen of Valaya. So that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase.
Klaatu, Marata,
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at Snake Eyes for the winds of magic being blown. So because of that, magic phase does not happen just because there is no spells taking place. So that is pretty rough. I was really demoralized on that one because I was hoping for a pretty good magic phase in order to save my Lord Master's blades, but that ain't happening. So yeah. So we skip magic phase and go directly to the shooting phase, and in the shooting phase I concentrate fire with all three of my Falling Leaves of Avelorn, my three Eagle Claw bolt thrower. I actually use multiple shots, and I put them directly into Clan Stormcloak, so that way I can weaken those guys down a little bit as well. I also have the Silent Striders from my Lyrian Reavers, as well as my Bowmen from the Sunrunner open up onto that unit of hammers as well. And unfortunately, I was only able to kill 3 of them. It was because half of my shots were pretty much missing because they're protected by forest, so that's one. And secondly, dwarves, I don't know if you know this, but dwarves are actually built to withstand missile fire, so because of that, not very many of them actually died. Only 3 of them did. Plus, they were then also 6 inches of the Master Rune of Drugny, so because of that, they also got 5 award saves too. So these guys were really, resilient. So I only managed to kill 3 of those guys. So that part's pretty tragic. I guess I just have to kill them in the combat phase when I charge into them in my next turn. And speaking of the combat phase, I had a pretty milquetoast combat phase, to speak of which, actually. I only managed to kill 2 more Dwarf Rangers when it was all said and done, and the Dwarf Rangers managed to kill 4 of my guys as well. In the end, I believe it ended up being a push, just it ended up being a draw, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because he has 4, I have 2, I have ranks and a banner, he's got ranks and a banner. Yeah, so it pretty much just ended up working out to where nothing much really happened at that point, so because it ended up pretty much being a draw. Which is kind of good, because at least these Dwarf Rangers aren't attacking my War Machines, which is always a good thing. And like I said before, if anybody's going to be able to take on Bugman's Rangers, it's my Phoenix Guards. These guys are built to last, which is pretty awesome for High Elf farming. And that pretty much ends up turn number 1 for the High Elves. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Dwarves. And that takes directly to the move phase, the top of number 2 for the Dwarves. As you can see in this photo, the Dwarves decide to just commit at this point, which is actually pretty crazy. My buddy Iron Mage declares a charge with his hammers from Clan Stormcloak, and they actually survive the charge through the force. He does take Trainer's Terrain test, but they all survive with no problems, and he comes crashing directly into my Silver Sentinels, which is actually bad because that was a pretty long distance charge from my opponent, and I don't think Dwarves would have made it originally, but he rolled pretty high. I think he rolled an 11 when he ended up rolling, and he had 3 inches because of his movement. So because that, he goes crashing directly into my Silver Sentinels, which is horrific because when you're cavalry, it's always best to charge and it's always worse to be charged. And now I have to worry about that now because all the strength bonuses for my lance carrying Silver Helms is completely gone. So that's not awesome at all. And then the second long bomb charge came from his Dwarf Warriors. He decides to charge in Clan Roadsulker. He decides to risk it all and rolls his 2 6-sided dice, and he rolls a 12. Perfect boxcars. So because of that, he goes tearing across the battlefield for that huge horde of Dwarf Warriors, and it comes crashing smack dab against my Lord Master's blades. So now my Sword Masters and these Dwarf Masters, Dwarf Warriors, are now engaged in close combat, which is kind of rough. The only silver lining is that if my Lord Master's blades can hold out, I can charge in the Sunrunner directly into it as well and get some nice juicy impact hits as well. And that's pretty much the only thing I have going for me. For the rest of his move phase, of course, his Bugman's Rangers still engage with my Ever Wardens, and then he also shifts the movement of his Clan Hellhind, so that way he can protect them as a shield for his War Machines. At the same time, he also moves up and does a quick reform and move with his Quarrelers from Clan Ysmir, so that way they can intercept the Illyrian Reavers from the Silent Striders. And that pretty much makes up his move phase on this one. So here's a close-up with the Joseph Bugman's Rangers still engaging with my Ever Wardens, so another round of combat between these 2 forces, and I'm pretty excited to see exactly how that one's going to turn out. And here's a close-up with Clan Roadsulker as well as most of the characters in his army, ready to bring the hatred down on my Lord Master's blades, which I am not looking forward to seeing. Here's a close-up of Clan Hellhind, getting ready to use themselves as a human shield to protect their War Machines from any incoming fire that might be coming their way. At the same time, here's a close-in shot of Clan Stormcloak charging right through the forest directly into my Silver Sentinels and engaging those guys in close combat as well, which that part was really, really rough. So with the move phase over with, we skip the magic phase because they're dwarves and Iron Mage doesn't believe in magic, and we go to the real dwarf magic phase, which is the shooting phase. So in the shooting phase, you can see in this photo, the Silent Striders are no more. What ended up happening is that my buddy Iron Major targeted them with the Decemberist of Winter's Past, which is his organ gun, as well as the Stars of Eld, which is his cannon, opens up directly and concentrate fires on my Illyrian Reavers. If I remember correctly, I believe the cannon killed 2 of my Illyrian Reavers, while the other 8 were just atomized by the number of 16 shots that went off directly into their faces from the organ guns. So that part was absolutely demoralizing. So all that's left now on the battlefield is just a little pile of horse I'm eating elf flesh because those guys got blown to pieces, so that part was kind of tragic. And finally, the Remember opens up with a stone throwing shot directly onto my Sunrunner, and actually scores a direct hit and just destroys my chariot with one shot, just smashing it to pieces with a giant boulder with some really colorful dwarf language carved on the surface of it. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. So in the combat phase, the fight between Clan Stormcloak as well as the Silver Sentinels was entirely one-sided for the most part. I did manage to kill 3 dwarves with Tyrion, so that part was pretty cool, and the rest of my Silver Helms, they did a pretty good job catching up with the other 4, so that part was kind of nice. However, those Dwarf Hammers, though, when they bring the pain, they really bring the pain, and they actually managed to kill 8 of my Silver Helm Knights right off the bat. If I remember correctly, Torchstick Stormcloak actually directed his attacks directly to Tyrion, but because of that special character, he's perfectly fine, so not much really happens from there. So because of that, he actually has 8. He's also charged as well, and as a standard bearer, which gives him a total of 10 points total when he ends up doing for that one. And of course I killed 7, and I also have a standard bearer, so because of that, drops down my leadership score only by 2, so it actually makes my Silver Sentinels only leadership 8. So because of that, I had to take a leadership test obviously to do that, and when I rolled my 2d6 to see exactly what happened to them, I rolled an 11, which was absolutely horrible. I'm forced to break and flee, and I only run forward 7 inches, but the dwarves, though, they run forward, I think, 10 or 11 inches. I forgot which one it was. But either case, it was enough for those hammers to actually chase me down and chop me down to pieces with those hammers of theirs, and they just sledge hammer to the skull of Tyrion and just runs over the entire unit and getting those guys completely wiped out, which is really, really horrible to see. So that part is super tragic. Meanwhile, combat between Clan Roadstoker as well as Lord Master's Blades was not ideal. As you can see in this photo, first of all, he actually declares a challenge with Lord Ivar Bodison, the Lord of Fallen Holds. And because the Lord Master's Blades doesn't have a champion inside of it, I have to accept the challenge, which is actually pretty rough. So because of that, Teclis has to actually stand up because he has no choice. So he goes and faces against Lord Ivar Bodison, and that went as well as you probably expected. Teclis didn't do crap against him. When I rolled to see if his attack wounds or not, it actually hit, and the sword of Teclis actually auto wounds on a 2-up, and when I rolled my wound roll, I rolled a 1, so, you know, them's the breaks, I guess. Ivar Bodison had no problem just smashing in the head of my wizard, no problem whatsoever, so that part was super tragic. So because of that, Teclis is killed right off the bat. Now, I do get to counterattack, of course, with my Sword Masters, but unfortunately I flubbed a lot of my rolls for my attacks. I only managed to kill 4 Dwarf Warriors when it's all said and done. On the other hand, though, the Hammer, the rest of the Dwarf Warriors, as well as Torchstick, as well as Ragnar the Spellbreaker, and Yorick Shadow Shield, they managed to kill, I think, 7 of my Sword Masters as well. So because of that, they end up with a combat score of 10, because of the 3 wounds that Teclis actually has. They also charge. They also have 2 rank bonuses as well, as giving them a total of 12. They also have a Battle Standard Bearer and a Standard Bearer, which gives them a grand total of 14. I have a rank, so it drops down to 13. I have a Standard Bearer, which actually drops down to 12, and I also cause 4 wounds as well, which drops it down to 8. So because of that, my Lord Master's Blades are pretty much level 0 when it comes to the leadership test. They have to roll Snake Eyes in order to stand their ground. Needless to say, I don't roll Snake Eyes. I actually roll Runaway about 7 inches, and the dwarves actually roll 9. So because of that, those dwarf warriors just come tearing down from the base of the tower and slice up and chop down the last remaining few members of the Lord Master's Blades that are left. And also puts them with a good 3 inches away from the right-hand flank of my Everwardens, which gives them a good flanking charge to charge directly into them. So that part is super tragic. Meanwhile, combat between my Phoenix Guard from the Everwardens as well as Bugman's Rangers actually goes another round. I think it ended up being a draw for the most part, because I don't think any of us had to take break tests when it actually all came said when it's all said and done. I do manage to kill 3 Rangers and put another wound on Joseph Bugman, but that's irrelevant because Joseph Bugman will just heal up that wound next turn using his Bugman's Tankard, and I think they managed to kill 3 of my Phoenix Guard as well, so that part was kind of rough. So they're still engaged for another round of combat. And as this is point, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to call the game because there is no way I'm going to be able to win because I am now combat ineffective, and that nets a victory for my buddy Iron Major. So here's over to shut the battlefield. As you can see, almost all of my High Elves are dead. The only thing I have left are my Phoenix Guard, which are about to be killed here in a second if those Dwarf Warriors charge. And after that, just my Bolt Throwers, and that's all she wrote. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the After Action Report because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. It's game over, man. It's game over.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king.
Uh-huh.
But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Alright, now it's time for the After Action Report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well or what went poorly and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action Report for the Golden Age Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report number 65, and this ended up being a huge defeat for yours truly. I ended up scoring 0 victory points while my opponent scored 3,054 victory points on me. My losses, I lost pretty much everything in my army. I lost Tyrion, Teclis, Tanis Laenel, Captain of the Dawn Guard, the Silent Striders, the Silver Sentinels, the Dawn Guard, the Sunrunner, the Everqueen's Rangers, and the Lord Master's Blades. Iron Major lost nothing, absolutely nothing in this battle report. I had my teeth kicked in during this entire battle. Iron Major used his dwarves masterfully, where I was just kind of struggling the entire time. And I pretty much equate this to the Bugman's Rangers charging me directly in my left-hand flank. That threw off my entire plan, because it tied up most of my infantry forces. And because of that, my Everwardens as well as my Dawn Guard were pretty much knocked off the bat. I lost my Battle Standard Bearer too, and that only left me with 2/3 of my infantry forces to kind of, solve the problem. But then again, they were also massacred as well, so that was pretty horrible as well. Looking back, I should have deployed my forces on the far left-hand flank instead of the right. Yes, my forces were protected by the tower that was in the center of the battlefield from being shot at, but at the same time, it also prevented my army from engaging his forces very quickly either. So because of that, speed was the essence of this one, and I really didn't have that going on. Same thing, my lack of a magic phase. Not having that magic phase really hurt a lot too, because Iron Major just kind of locked it down with his choice of runic banners as well as dwarf natural resistance to magic. But like I said, this whole reason why I lost this was because Iron Major is the man when it comes to using a dwarf army, and so because of that, it pretty much shows in this battle report. Still, in spite of my defeat, it was still a really fun game. I always love playing against Iron Major as well. I had a great time against an amazing opponent, and as always, I am looking forward to the rematch on this one. So that's good for this one, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news on this channel. That's good for this one. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.